All right, this is the name portrait brush project, and you should have already done step 1, which was to create a brush from your name. So you can see up here, if I go into my brushes panel, I have my name brush in here. You want to make sure that you've got that done prior to this video so that you have a brush that has your name. Okay, so once you've done that, you're ready to open up your picture. So here is my image. Now, if your image has like extra space along the top where you can see like your waist, that area, you need to crop it. So your first step would be to crop if necessary. I don't need to crop because I took my picture specifically knowing I was going to use it in this way. Also, your picture might be really big, and if that's the case, you might want to crop it. I'm not going to. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to actually make this be grayscale. So we're going to discard all color by just switching the image mode from RGB to grayscale. That's image mode grayscale. We are going to discard all of that information. And I want to do this destructively. The first few steps will be destructive, which is not normally how I do it. But for this project, it's kind of necessary. So we are discarding the color information. Then we're going to select ourselves and remove the background, and we want to get rid of it. So it's going to be destructive removal. I find the quick selection brush and the option to select subject to be most efficient. I'm going to click on that and give it a second. It's going to look for me. There you go. It found me. And then I'm going to hop into select and mask just to make sure it looks good. And this is a pretty good selection. Even the hair wisps are in here pretty good. So if your selection is good and you're happy with it, and again, you can view it up here where it says view. You can view it on black and turn the opacity up just to make sure. Again, it's not going to matter a lot because we're only going to be using this inside part of the image anyway. So, all right, it looks pretty good to me. Now, the big thing you're going to want to do is down at the bottom where it says output settings. Normally, I would have my students output to a new layer with a layer mask, but we're not going to do that this time. We're just going to say new layer, which means it is going to destructively get rid of the background. So if you're not happy with how this looks right now, you need to fix it in select and mask before you do this step, because this won't be reversible. All right, I'm going to say output to new layer. I'm going to hit OK. And now what you'll see is there's a background copy. So my original layer is still here if I need it, and I'll leave it for now. And then this is the layer that's me. I'm going to name this layer. And so now we've got the starting point. So it's in grayscale, it's selected, and the background is straight gone. You can't have a layer mask here because we're getting ready to make a layer mask. Okay, so the next step is first off to make sure you got your brush. So go over to your brush panel or your brush button and then go in here and load your brush, which should be down at the bottom. Once you set it in the previous exercise, it'll just be added to the very bottom of your brushes. I've done it 3 times, so I've got 3 of them in here. So just click on one, point to your screen and make sure that your brush shows up. My brush is really, really big. You can use your bracket keys to make your brush bigger or smaller, whatever. I start with a pretty decent sized brush for the first part of this. Okay, now the fun part. We're going to hide all of you. We're going to add a layer mask. So over on your layers panel, click on the layer mask button, but we need to fill the layer mask in with black to make you go away. So I'm just going to, while clicked on the layer mask, go to edit fill and then just set it to black, or you can use the keystrokes to do that. Okay, bye-bye. Now you're gone. But what we're going to do is use your brush of your name to paint you back in. Now, if you just start off with your brush, you want to have white on top and you just start brushing. If you start brushing, it works, but your brush isn't moving around. And we want to make this brush move around like so. So we're going to change the brush settings. Go to Window and Brush Settings to do this. You're going to go over to your brush settings and you're going to click on the word Shape Dynamics and it will check mark it. And we want to mess with the size jitter. And if you look down here at the bottom, like right now if we draw with the brush, that's what it looks like. But we want to come down here and modify the jitter so that it can change size. Then we're going to set the minimum and mess with that a little bit. And then you're going to mess with the angle jitter. And see, this is where your name is like turning around. See, it's like all on top of each other. So now if I try to use it, see, it's like bouncing around. It's turning around differently. And you get kind of those edges of it, okay? So this is kind of cool because we get kind of a curly Q sort of effect going on. Now you can still take your bracket keys and make your brush bigger and smaller. So like this part, you could use a pretty big brush, honestly. Now, if you just hold it still, you're going to take over everything quickly. So you just kind of want to do a little bit at a time and then let go, and a little bit at a time and let go, and a little bit at a time and let go. So you're just kind of painting yourself in. Now remember, we destructively got rid of the background, so you're not going to accidentally paint background in because it doesn't exist anymore. Now if you go a little too far, like I've done over here, all of my hair has come back. What do? We switch colors and we use white or black. So white in this case is where we see your face, and black is what's hiding from the image. So I'm going to switch to black and now use a little bit of a smaller brush. And that, when I punch in here, is going to make some of those parts go away. And now I'm just clicking one time. I'm not really clicking and dragging. I'm just clicking, letting go, clicking, letting go. Notice the brush is flopping around. Okay, and I'm going to get closer to the edge and just click and not, and not let go. But you can see, like, so if I'm using a smaller brush, I'm getting this effect. With the big brush, I'm getting kind of these big curly cues. So you're going to kind of want to keep your fingers on your little brackets and just kind of go back and forth based on what part of your brush that you want to use and that you want to be able to see. You want to be able to see your name in some places. Like, you don't have to be able to read it everywhere, but I think it looks cooler if, like, every now and then you actually see your name down there. So it kind of looks like your name was used to draw the picture. Because kind of it was. All right. And that's basically the process here. And you just mess with it for however long you want to. Again, if you want to paint back in parts, just put back in white. Use it bigger, use it smaller, it doesn't matter, and it will add it back in. And that's pretty much the gist of it. The additional instructions I did put on here, you could add a background to this. So you could export it out now as a PNG and it would have a transparent background. Or if you want to have a background on there, then you're going to go ahead and create a fill layer. So I can click down here on the adjustment layer button, go to solid color or gradient, but remember, we have this set as a grayscale image. So if I try to go in here, my only options are going to be black and white. So if you do want color, you're going to need to go back up to image mode and just pop it back into RGB color. Now you won't get your colors back because we discarded them. But now if we do this, and it'll make you merge, so you'll lose your extra background there. Once you merge it down, then now you can add that color fill layer and it can actually be color. So if I say solid color, choose your color, hit OK, and then just drag it below. And then you've got whatever you want to do. Now, I personally think your light colors are going to look the best on this. So, having a white or a pink or some pale color usually looks pretty nice. You could even go into your blues a little bit. Or instead of doing a solid color, you could do a gradient. So you can come down here to the gradient fill layer and then put a gradient. And there's gradients built in depending on what version you have, that has all kinds of different gradients in there. And there you go. Obviously, if you are going to have some open space like I do here on the bottom, you might want to give it one more crop. But that's basically it. And if you wanted to, you could even change the blending mode of this. So you could click on the layer of your person and switch the blending mode so that it uses those colors underneath it. So I can come down here to multiply, linear burn. You won't want to use the lighter colors because I have a light colored background. All kinds of different effects that you can get by just changing those blend modes. Anyway, cool, right? And super short, easy little project. So I hope you had fun.